Donald Trump doesn't want to kill the Democratic Party. He wants to keep it breathing, like barely breathing, because a wounded enemy is more useful than a dead one. Think about this. Every Trump rally needs a villain. Every MAGA fundraiser needs outrage. Now, every truth social post needs an apocalypse. And if Democrats ever actually collapse, what happens to the movement built on fighting them? Think about this. And Anthony Scaramucci, yes, that Scaramucci, just dropped a political grenade. Trump wants Democrats to succeed him. Not because he likes them, because he needs them. And here's the part nobody in MAGA wants to hear. The post-Trump Republican Party may already be cannibalizing itself. Trump changed American politics forever, not by building a traditional party, just building a permanent emotional war machine. And that's true. Like the fuel? Nah. Anger, fear, humiliation, and revenge. That's why every election becomes the most important election in the history of the United States. Every Democrat becomes a communist. Every court case becomes like a conspiracy. Every criticism becomes treason. Because once politics becomes identity, it can never let the war end. And that's Scaramucci's point. Now, Trump doesn't benefit from democratic extinctions. He benefits from democratic survival. Just weak enough to hate, strong enough to fear. It's professional wrestling at this point. You don't fire the violin before the main event. The outrage is the product. Now, here's where this gets dangerous for Republicans. Trump isn't just a politician anymore. He's a gravity field. Everybody around him gets distorted. Look at the Republican bench. J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, Ron DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy, Nikki Haley. Different style, different ambitions, but all trapped inside one reality. None of them are Trump, and that's the curse. Because MAGA voters don't just want politics, they want dominance, entertainment, conflict, a man who walks on stage like he's earning a cage fight. Now, Trump turned politics into combat sports. That's what it looks like. Now, every Republican trying to inherit MAGA looks like a tribute band covering the original singer, and the voter can't tell that. Now, here's J.D. Vance's problem. J.D. Vance probably has the clearest path structurally. Young, smart, media savvy, backed by the populist right. But here's the issue. Trump supporters love authenticity, even when Trump contradicts himself every 11 minutes. J.D. Vance has a political paper trail longer than CVS receipts. Remember, he once compared Trump to America's Hitler. J.D. Vance did that. And now he's one of Trump's loudest defender. To elite strategies, that's evolution. So to hardcore populists, it can smell like calculation, and MAGA voters can forgive almost anything, but they despise opportunism. And that's the razor blade hidden inside Vance's rice. And Marco Rubio's even bigger problem. Marco Rubio has a completely different issue. He belongs to Republicans' era that Trump's humiliated publicly. Like everyone knows that. And like the polished conservative, the Reagan-style optimist, the scripted foreign policy hawk. Now, Trump bulldozed that version of GOP in 2016, and Marco Rubio's never fully recovered from the little Marco attacks, what happened in 2016. And now, that's the brutal truth about Trump. He doesn't just beat opponents, he shrinks them totally. Now, after Trump mocks you successfully, voters start seeing you through his lens forever. Now, Marco Rubio may be smart enough for his presidency, like disciplined enough, or probably experienced enough, but in the MAGA ecosystem, I don't think so. Competence is not charisma, and charisma now overweighs ideology. Now, let's talk about midterms, time bomb. Because this is where the entire Republican future gets weird. Historically, midterms punish the party in power. But Donald Trump changes the equation. Why? Because he turns every election into a referendum on himself, even when he's not technically on the ballot. That energizes Democrat, it terrifies suburban independents, and it creates candidates who are amazing online, but sometimes unelectable in swing states. Republican dominates deep red districts with culture war messaging. But nationally, the math gets uglier here, especially if inflation cools down, especially if voters get exhausted, especially if independent voters decide they want stability more. Especially if independent voters decide they want stability more than spectacle. And that's the nightmare scenario of MAGA. The movement stays loud while shrinking electorally. Now, here's truth nobody says out loud. Trump has no true successor because Trumpism was built around one personality. Not a psychology, not a coherent platform, a force of nature. So that's why every hair looks awkward. Too polished? Fake. Too aggressive? Cringe. So, too intellectual? Nah, elitist. Too loyal? Weak. Too independent? Traitor. Now, Trump builds a movement so centered on himself that succession almost becomes impossible. And deep down, he may prefer it that way. So, because if nobody can replace him, he never really leaves. So maybe Scaramucci is absolutely right. Maybe Trump doesn't want Democrats probably destroyed. Maybe he wants them permanently alive as the perfect enemy, because the second enemy disappears totally. The movement has to look in the mirror, and that's the one fight populist movements almost never survive. So the real threat of MAGA may not be Democrats at all. It may be the day Donald Trump is no longer the center of gravity, and kingdoms built on one man usually ends the same way.